une belle soirée pour l'athlétisme au Stade de France, les premières médailles de lutte et puis les phases finales de basket qui prennent leur place désormais à l'Arena Bercy. Pour finir, hier, on a pu échanger sur les conditions de baignabilité pour le relais mix du triathlon. Donc, je vais vous donner les derniers tests de qualité de l'eau. And I will do it in English for all the international media. So for Ecoli, the water quality on the morning of the 5th of August was shown to be very good at 3 of the 4 testing points, 326, 387, 411, and good for the 4th testing point, 517. So this confirms that the forward-looking analysis is reliable. The results for antero levels from samples taken at 6:30 a.m. on race day came in at 10 a.m. this morning, so I can also share them with you. They show that 3 of the 4 testing points were between 242 and 378. They were within the threshold set by the World Triathlon, and 1 point coming in very slightly above 436 for a limit of 400. So regarding the analysis, I can share with you the statement from the World Triathlon, who is the organization which decides on the organization of the competition. So after checking the results of the water quality test of the samples collected on the 5th of August between 5 a.m. and 6:30, World Triathlon stands by its decision to go ahead with the races as scheduled. 3 of the 4 values of both Ecoli and Anterococi were considered very good. A 4th one slightly above the threshold, but it was taken outside the swim course of the mixed relays. So this point is very important to state. Mark, your turn.
Thank you very much, Anne. And as ever, we'll come to all the questions that you have later. We're going to do a look at sustainability today, but let me just quickly give you, I know a lot of you are looking forward to the broadcast on digital figures, a couple of quick ones. In Spain, the gold medal match between Djokovic and Alcaraz had the highest Olympic television audience in Spain since London 2012, doubling the highest audiences achieved in the territory during Rio 2016 and Tokyo 2020. And Olympic social media handles now passing 10 billion engagements for Paris. So we are, we think, very much on track for having more than half the world taking part, following the Games in some form or another. I have 15 gold medals today, and the President is at equestrian this morning and wrestling this evening. Okay, we're going to have a quick look at sustainability beyond just staging the Games. As you know, we're also looking at the carbon footprint, really concentrating on the carbon footprint and creating lasting benefits for the country and people here. Very much often the legacy, even before the Games have started, is kind of one of the key points. The first Games to be fully aligned, as you all know, with the reforms of Olympic Agenda 2020, in which sustainability and legacy are driving every aspect of the planning for the Games, where the Olympic Games now fit to the city and the region, not as in the past, sometimes the other way around. So joining me on stage, Tanya Braga, who's IOC Head of Olympic Games Impact and Legacy, Marie Barsac, Paris 2024 Director of Impact and Legacy, and Georgina Grenon, Paris 24 Director for Environmental Excellence. So we're going to hear briefly from all three, then we'll take questions on that, and then we'll go to all the rest of your many questions for the day. So Tanya, do you want to get
Thank you very much, Mark. Good morning, everyone. When the IOC put together the reforms of the Olympic Agenda 2020, our ambition was to make those games more sustainable, more responsible, and useful for the hosting population that were receiving the games. This translates in reducing the footprint and minimizing any negative impact of the games, while creating positive benefits for the hosting population well before the games start. As mentioned by Mark, the idea is that the games adapt to the host, to the needs of the local population. And one of the main changes were that we have encouraged the organizers to use the maximum of existing and temporary venues and only build if there was a very strong need for the local population. Legacy and sustainability have become central to all aspects of the games, on the planning, from the initial moments of dialogue before a candidature to decades that will come after. Paris 2024 have done an amazing job in bringing this ambition to reality. This is the first Olympic Games that are aligned with the Olympic Agenda 2020 from start to finish, and they have raised the bar and kept a very high level of ambition on sustainability and legacy from the initial vision before the candidature. And they have worked to integrate those aspects in every single detail of the organization of these games. Today, Paris 2024 is proving that it's possible to stage spectacular, inclusive and unique games in a more responsible, more sustainable and more useful manner. They have an ambition to cut the carbon footprint by half compared to the average of previous games, and they are on track on this ambition. They are bringing more sport to more people across all fronts, and they have created very tangible social and economic opportunities in the Great Paris area, especially at Seine-Saint-Denis, that is the area that needs this most. We can say that Paris have already established new standards for more sustainable events, for more sustainable Olympic Games overall. And I will pass the floor to Marie and Georgina to give concrete examples on how they have bring this ambition to life.
Thank you, Tanya. Hello, everyone. As Tanya said, we are totally aligned with the Agenda 2020, and we worked to maximize positive impact for those who need the most. The first beneficiary of our program is the inhabitants of Seine-Saint-Denis. This region, the north of Paris, faces today many challenges. It is the poorest region in France and the youngest also. So in Seine-Saint-Denis there is a need of housing. That's why we choose to set up and to build the village for the athletes and the village for the media, which are neighborhoods, and that globally it will be 4,000 houses for people in Seine-Saint-Denis. In Seine-Saint-Denis, we need also sport infrastructure. After the games, there will be 20 new or renovated new infrastructures in this region. There is also a need of swimming pools. That's why, with the Legacy of Paris 2024, we have 18 new pools and are renovated in Seine-Saint-Denis. You know the biggest one, the Aquatic Center, but I don't know if you know that in Paris La Défense Arena, 2 of those pools will go in 2 cities in Seine-Saint-Denis, at Sevran and Bagnolet, which is quite innovative and very important for the population there. In Seine-Saint-Denis, because there is a lack of swimming pools, the children are below the national level of learning to swim. That's why in 2021 we launched a program, 1, 2, 3 Swim, in order to learn to swim to kids. 36,000 kids learn to swim with that program, and the majority are inhabitants of Seine-Saint-Denis. There is also a strong need of employment in Seine-Saint-Denis. In 2019, we mapped the jobs that are needed to organize the games. The number is huge. It's 180,000 jobs, and we really wanted to maximize opportunities for job seekers in Seine-Saint-Denis. That's why we launched training programs dedicated to them. We also organized a huge forum for employment, and we really have results. We will have data at the end of the games because it's not over again, but there is a lot of job seekers in Seine-Saint-Denis that find a job. We also help small companies in Seine-Saint-Denis to win our call for tenders. Again, it's huge opportunities for them, and it produces a massive economical impact for this territory. Today, Seine-Saint-Denis is on the podium of the region that won our call for tender. They are third. It's a really great success for this region. Second beneficiary of our strategy, it's the generation 2024. Combating sedentarity was a priority for us, and with a priority for the kids from 6 to 11 years old. In France, at that age, 87% of the kids are not at the level of the recommendation of the World Health Organization, WHO. That's why we launched an experimentation in 2020, 30 minutes of daily physical activity at school. And because we had great success, we had the year after 10,000 schools that on a voluntary basis experimented that measure. And the result, the impact study shows that it has a direct impact on the well-being and the concentration in class of the kids. That's the reason why the government decided in 2023 to generalize this measure to all schools in France. This is massive, and it is for us a very strong legacy because the benefits will be very long-term for the whole generation 2024. The third legacy for us are clubs, beneficiaries of our strategy are clubs, associations, municipalities that use sports to answer social needs. Those who use sports for health, use sports for education, to include people with disability, but also LGBT community in clubs, but also homeless people, sports to empower women also. All those initiatives were very important for us to support, and with our stakeholders, we founded 1,500 of projects all around France with a budget of 50 million euros. It means that we have already 4.5 million of beneficiaries in our country. And today in France, we can prove that sport is not only high performance and sport practice, it's a massive social impact. And for us, it's very useful and important because we're convinced to invest in sports after the games. It's a key factor for a very long-term legacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. We believe the games can change society, but that they also have to evolve with it. As for any edition of the games, we're taking a date with history, but this time we're adding an extra edge, making these games more sustainable. Today we're proving that Olympics can provide and showcase concrete solutions to secure climate ambitions, to protect biodiversity, to develop a much higher circularity, and that is across all the operations. Games that deliver sports, in fact, we have the same number of venues that London and yet deliver 8 more sports disciplines. Games that deliver with less, that do it better, and while leaving a long-lasting legacy. For that, we turn our games into a laboratory and a springboard for innovation. Of course, we could have not done it alone. Sponsors, suppliers, our host territories, the state, they all played together as one team alongside Paris 2024. Ambitions that seemed out of reach a few years ago are now becoming reality. To achieve that, we have worked on all the different delivery pillars, but also on the symbols of the games. First, to understand the source of the impacts, then to develop different solutions to improve them for us, but also, and more largely, for years to come. I will now illustrate with a few examples of that. First of all, the village. Marie was saying it was built where it was needed, but it was also built with 30% less carbon per square meter, 30% less emissions per square meter by using new construction techniques, thanks to the massive use of wood, low carbon concrete and recycled materials. Our spectacular temporary venues are also aligning ingenuity and frugality, and the massive use of rented equipment to increase circularity. All our venues are powered by solar and wind energy, leaving a legacy of secured grid connections that should reduce dependency on fossil fuels from now onwards. And in the rare cases where grid connection was not possible, we tried new temporary generation units based on foldable solar panels, second-generation biofuels, or renewable hydrogen, like the ones you see in this picture in Versailles. Biodiversity preservation zones were deployed where needed, and spectators contributed to respecting that. For Marseille, in particular, and as an Olympics first, we deployed new technology of self-positioning anchor buoys to protect Posidonia. Our spectators are accessing our venues by public transport, by food, or bike. Our meals and refreshments are served with reduced dependency of single-use plastics. And we created low-carbon offers for spectators, workforce, and media. Actually, athletes are receiving the ingredients they requested, and the menus have been approved months ago by the IOC and federations. Agreements are also in place with leading associations who help us by picking up and redistributing unsold food. A second life will be key for the 6 million goods and equipment needed to the Games. And actually today, 90% of them have secured a second life. Now, on symbols of the Games, our medals, the ultimate symbol of success. Not only they're made with 100% locally recycled metals, but they're also proving that old can be the new gold, with the 18 grams of the Eiffel Tower in the center. The cauldron, our first ever fuel-free cauldron. It's a symbol of our commitment for spectacular yet more sustainable games. And then the Seine, of which the Games have accelerated its recovery, not only for us, not only for sports, not only for Parisians as of next year, but also for the more than 30 species of fish that have already come back. We worked very hard with all our ecosystem to do things differently, and sometimes we did not choose the easiest option. These were just examples of what the Games are doing to play their part in addressing today's climate and environmental challenges. And now for this final sprint, we need also everyone's contribution. So we launched a campaign, a Games First, to encourage spectators and tourists alike to play their part, to play their small actions. Because we are convinced that today, more than ever, we can do better together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Regina. Okay, let's start with sustainability legacy questions, if you have some, and then, as I say, as ever, we will go to any of the other topics. Yes, lady down here in the front. Yeah. Can you wait for that? Thank you.
Hi there, Catherine Porter, New York Times. Much has been written in the last week about plastic. I know you've seen it, Georgina. I'm wondering how you will meet your 50% reduction of plastic, particularly when more than half of what you're serving is coming out of plastic and you're pouring those drinks into plastic cups. In fact, some of your critics have been claiming this is greenwashing, and I'm wondering what your response is.
Thanks for the question, because it allows me to clarify. In the way we have conceived the servings of the drinks, we're using fountains. We're using, actually 700 fountains have been deployed. We're using glass bottles. And then for the cases in which neither of those options could be deployable, then we're using plastic bottles that are poured into reusable cups. But we can guarantee that those bottles are recycled, which is not the case. In France, 1 bottle out of 4 gets recycled. So it was important to secure that those bottles that are already made of recycled plastics get recycled. But by construction, in our estimations of what will be served through all these different channels and different publics, we believe we will attain this 50% single-use plastic reduction. The bottles that are poured into cups are not counted into the 50% plastic reduction. The plastic reduction gets into use thanks to using fountains and thanks to using glass bottles. Right.
Okay, thank you very much. Gentleman at the back there.
Hi Georgina, Jerry Lawton at the Daily Star in England. Could you just tell me a little bit about the process of getting a bit of the Eiffel Tower into all of these medals? How does that happen? Where's the Eiffel Tower?
Only has to climb up every
There's no danger here, I take it. But if you could tell us a little bit about that process, because everybody's obviously very proud of that and receiving that. How exactly do you do it and where's it come from?
Great question, thank you. Well, the Eiffel Tower, is an old lady and it needs some maintenance. So for some years, every time there was some maintenance and some parts had to be replaced, those parts were kept apart, were saved. And then, luckily with an agreement with the Eiffel Tower operation, we could get those parts. And they were treated as pieces of jewelry, and they were cut and cleaned, and then put into the medals as you put a diamond, as you put a piece of precious stone. So this is where the artisanat, our capacity of bringing life out of this piece of iron was very interesting, I think. And we're also sending a message on the importance of circularity. Something that would have looked as waste, as something that might, in the best case, be recycled. In our case, is being used as a piece of jewelry. So hopefully the message is received. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gentleman here first, and then we'll come up to you, sir. Yeah.
Bonjour, Bruno Fraioli de sportbusiness.club. Je voulais revenir sur les groupes électrogènes. Alors, il y a effectivement des groupes électrogènes.
Power generators. Now, the power generators, the new generation of those auxiliary power generation, work on the basis of hydrogen. But I've also seen that there are a lot of traditional power generators that are diesel powered. So how many are hydrogen powered, and how many worked, and how many of the more traditional ones have been in operation? Thank you very much for that question. We have connected all the sites to the grid. In French, I can continue in French. So we've linked all the sites to the grid. So the primary energy is that of the network, the grid. Then there are also power generators which are on site but which are not being used. They're there in case there would be a problem with the grid. So it's always good to have them as a standby, even if they're not actually running. And then there are also certain areas areas which are very far, for example, in the Château de Versailles, for example, in Val-sur-Marne and the golf courses, where it's not really worthwhile actually laying a cable. It wouldn't make much economic sense. And there we have used distributed generators. And we've tested new systems. If you go to Val-sur-Marne, we've got solar panels, for example, which are foldable panels. And that allows us to produce energy, solar energy, which can then feed the installations. In Versailles, we've also used hydrogen for the generators. It's a proof of concept which allows us to test this new technology. And then for certain traditional generators, they are actually being powered by biofuels, that's HVO fuels, which allows us to reduce the impact if we cannot find any other solution. But this is just a very limited number of cases. But we will be taking stock of the situation. We'll be looking at the mix of technologies when the games are over. But at the moment, everything is exactly on course. I've got a question for you, Marie Barsac. My name is Nicolas Pelletier. I think over the last few days you saw that the authorities in Toulouse that an Olympic pool will be installed in the light of the medals won by Marchand. Will those La Défense pools only be installed in Saint-Denis? Of course, we were very happy to get that request, but these are subjects which have been decided. Actually, the one in Bagnolet, we launched a tender in 2019. So you see that this discussion goes back a number of years, and there is a hole being dug in order for the pools from La Défense Arena to be installed in Bagnolet. So it's going to be difficult for us to come back. But I think it is a good demonstration, nevertheless, that things that are temporary can have a lasting long-term impact. And in Saint-Denis, there is a real lack of pools. In fact, this is the department which is on the 93rd rank of 95 départements where we calculate the number of pools per inhabitant. So it is a strategic choice. I think that the pool in Toulouse is going to be rechristened the Léon Marchand pool.
Okay, anything else on sustainability, legacy? Okay, good. Yes, go on, Graham, and then we'll get on to the other stuff.
Thank you very much. Graham Dunbar from the AP. It's a question for Tanya on the bigger picture of your department, your legacy. For the 2030 Winter Olympics, you had a bid from Sweden and Stockholm that was very, very much more compliant with Olympic agenda and new norms than the French Alps bid. Was that a disappointment for your department that the Swedish bid slipped through the net because it doesn't involve building an ice rink among the palm trees?
For the 2030? For the 2030 election, it was done with the new way that is a dialogue. So we had two phases of this dialogue. A first phase that was a non-committal to understand the why of the project, how those projects were aligned with the long-term development plans of the host regions, and a second part of the dialogue that was a target dialogue with the French Alps 2030. The project of 20 Alps 2030, during the first part of the dialogue, they proved to be well aligned. They build on experience and knowledge for hosting from the area. They will use a majority over 90% of existing and temporary venues. They build also on the experience and the legacy of Paris 2024 in terms of development for sport in the country. So, and they have a long-term plan to bring together the north and the south of the Alps into a long-term development plan for these mountain regions that were very much close to everything that the IOC, the changes we have made with Agenda 2020 and Agenda 2020 +5.
Okay. Oh yeah. Couple more.
Oui, bonjour, Déborah Claude pour l'AFP. J'avais une question sur les analyses de l'eau parce que ça devient de plus en plus compliqué de comprendre comment vous procédez.
Analysis.
On peut continuer avec les questions générales, mais just to
We can
check and then I can let
come back to more general questions in a minute. But this is also linked to the environment. And
then I can let the others go. Yeah. If there's one more sustainability question, and then we'll come back to you.
Hi, I have one more. But I think that is a sustainability question, but regardless. I'm wondering, halfway through the games, have you done any measurement on terms of transportation? Like, have you actually reduced how many people are using those Olympistes? What your subway use is like, even given that the prices have gone so much higher than was planned originally? Do you have any initial statistics that actually breaks down whether you're reaching your targets?
We always say that we're going to make the final assessment at the end, but so far, so good. People are using public transportation. It just takes you go and stand at the exits or of the metro stations. But most importantly, we're getting daily feedback on the use of our bikes parking spaces. And it's incredibly interesting to see how spectators are using bikes as well to come to our venues. There are some days in which they are used at 98%, the parking spaces. We have 27,000 parking spaces for bikes. So this is going to be a very interesting statistics to share with everyone, because it's been a first as well, and this is why we're monitoring on a daily basis.
And beyond the transportation during the games, it's important to remember that the games helped accelerate changes in public transportation. The city have a strong ambition in taking cars out of the streets, in dedicating more space for dedicated bike paths. There was improvement and extension in public transport, like the Line 14 that went to Saint-Denis with the new station Pleyel. So the Games was part of a larger strategy of the city, focusing on public and active and transport for the long term in the city.
Okay, avec mes excuses. Yeah, sorry, it is a sustainable question, I'm sorry.
Oui, parce que je crois que c'est présenté à la fois par.
Yes, it is about sustainability because it's a, part of your legacy, if I remember well. Now, just to be sure that I understand, there was training that was cancelled this morning. This was a decision that was taken overnight, I believe. What was this decision based on? What sampling was used? This was World Aquatics, which is a different entity from the decision that was made yesterday, if I understand well. This is for E. coli and others, so we just need to know the time and the date of this analysis. So World Aquatics did take this decision. This decision was taken this morning. So they looked at the results on E. coli that were very good on 3 tests, and 1 test which was qualified as being acceptable for the criterion. And then they looked at the decisions, or rather the results of others that were dated by 48 hours before. So we get these tests afterwards, So what does that mean? These were the results of the 4th of August, so 48 hours before, which was the eve of the decision that had to be taken for the mixed relay in the triathlon. So it's because of these previous tests that this decision was taken. It was done with a cautionary approach. We have to have familiarization, but there's another familiarization event which is planned tomorrow. And for Paris 2024, well, we're pretty confident in our ability to see what is happening in the weather forecasts will allow us to carry this out in good conditions. So again, it's the final results from the 5th of August, the day of the actual event.
If we don't have any more sustainability questions, I'll let everyone go, apart from Anne and I, and then we can take all your other questions. So thank you very much indeed. Yeah, gentleman here to start with.
Good morning. This is a question for Anne mostly. We recently found out that a BMX rider who took part in the opening ceremony is not an Olympic rider. He was just part of the opening ceremony. Has been under investigation for killing a 19-year-old kid as a policeman. What do you have to say to that? How come you went through the screening? And do you find acceptable that if you went through the screening, I mean, do you find it acceptable that he took part in the opening ceremony?
Yes, on that subject, we saw the information through the media. Just to say that all the performers for the ceremonies, celebration, are hired by a production agency. They are selected. The selection is based on their creative skills. We are not in a position on our side to confirm the information that was reported in the media. So at this stage, I cannot comment more on that subject.
Okay, yeah, gentleman there. Sorry, you wanted a question earlier on.
Thank you. Greg Lafredi, CGTN. Question is about swimming, and in particular the conflict between the World Anti-Doping Agency and the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency over Chinese swimmers. USADA has publicly accused WADA of a cover-up regarding 23 Chinese swimmers that tested positive before Tokyo 2020 were allowed to compete, 2 more that tested positive in 2022. CHINADA, China's anti-doping agency, did a thorough investigation of this, which was reviewed and supported by WADA, but USADA has insisted that there may be a cover-up. I'd like to know the IOC's opinion on this matter, particularly as WADA is now beginning an international compliance review of USADA. This could jeopardize the U.S. hosting of the Games in the future, perhaps even LA 2028. And also, have you seen or are you aware of CHINADA's statement that they have released this morning, official statement regarding this matter?
Yeah, I mean, I covered this 3 or 4 times. Happy to go through again in two press conferences, as I remember, at the beginning of the Games. All I can tell you, I mean, obviously this is clearly an issue mainly for WADA. What I can tell you, you've seen the IOC response. There was an interim report which found there to be no bias and grounds for not referring it to CAS. We offer our full support to WADA as the World Anti-Doping Agency that is needed. A global agency is needed to make sure that the anti-doping procedures are carried on around the world. That was an interim report. In the report, the investigative lawyer involved also indicated, who, by the way, also worked with 3 independent experts, or 4, I think it was, indicated that the final findings of that would be along those lines, the same lines. I can't really add very much to that at the moment that's going to help during the Games. Those discussions with WADA and with our other stakeholders will continue. Yeah, gentleman there.
Good morning. This is Jeff Wang from Radio Free Asia. A high-ranking Chinese sports official who is also the vice chairman of the World Aquatics Swimming Technical Committee, name is Yuan Haoran, has reportedly sought political asylum when he stays in Paris. We want to know if you have the information about him on this issue. Thank you.
I don't. Do you have any knowledge? It's the first I've heard of it, so I can't shed any light on that for you. I'm afraid I would go to the authorities on that one. Reuters down there.
Good morning, Carlos Como from Reuters. Following yesterday's press conference at the IBA, how does the IOC see the development of boxing and its Olympic future, given that there is no substitute federation that seems to be strong enough as far as members are concerned to take over, and the IBA seems to continue this this conflict with the IOC over the two boxers until certainly those boxers stop competing at the Paris Games? Thank you.
I'm not going to comment on the chaotic scenes yesterday. I think you all either were there or took part in that press conference. What I will say, the one thing I will say about it is that it clearly demonstrates that the sport of boxing needs a new federation to run boxing. If you ever needed any evidence at all that the IBA is unfit to run boxing, just to look at the key members of the IBA who took part in that travesty yesterday, I think tells you everything you need to know. The sad thing is that boxing is an incredibly important Olympic sport. I think I said this before. For us, it's important not just because it's a great sport, but because actually it's one of those sports that has a real social aspect to it. It often works not defavorized, in areas which are underprivileged. And so it's incredibly important. We would call on, and as I say, I think the best recruiting sergeant for a new federation would be that press conference yesterday. I'd ask everyone who hasn't seen it to please watch it, because I think it will give you an idea of why we are desperately in need of a federation that can take this forward. We have organised boxing both here in Paris and at the Tokyo Games. We are not a federation, obviously, and we desperately need a new federation to run boxing, and we hope that those national federations, I think some are already coming together, more I think after yesterday, but I think some of those are coming together, and let's hope that they can bring it to Los Angeles. We would love to see boxing, we want to see boxing on the programme in LA, and now it's up to the boxing community to organise themselves for the sport and for the athletes. Yeah, right at the back there.
Hi, Robin Doolittle from the Globe and Mail, and I apologize if you answered this in French already. I didn't rig up my headphones in time, but I asked this yesterday. Did you have any more clarity on any confirmed sicknesses from the Seine around swimmers beyond the reports that we've kind of seen in the media?
At this stage, we are not aware of any confirmed E. coli diagnosis. We can just say that, it's never nice to hear that an athlete is not feeling well, and we are just hoping that they will feel better.
Yep, gentleman down here.
Hi, Adam Plowright from AFP. It's a question for Anne and perhaps Mark as well. Do you accept that the fact that the triathlon was given the green light to go ahead yesterday and then training has been cancelled for the marathon swimming today, that creates a degree of confusion and perhaps uncertainty about whether the Seine was safe to swim in yesterday? And sort of how do you explain that?
It's important to remind everyone that it's the international federations that are taking the decision. So on one hand, the World Triathlon, and on the other hand, the World Aquatics. So I'm not going to speak on behalf of them, but just to explain that the decisions were taken at two different moments regarding the available data. It's important to stress the fact that the World Triathlon is willing to factor forward-looking analysis.
and this is the reason why the decision has been made on that stage. And on the other hand, as I said, the decision from the World Aquatic was taken with an abundance of caution regarding the fact that we are talking about familiarization, the fact that we have another option tomorrow to organize the event, and regarding the fact that we didn't have the last result for enterococcus.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to think we'll take a final question down here. Looks like, yeah.
Just passing on a question that has been asked around, and the 100 meters final for the men's event, there was a light show before the start, and there was none for the women. What's the reason for it?
You just need to wait a little bit. We have more surprise to come for female events.
Okay. Oh. Always regret offering a last question when we've closed.
Don't worry.
But go on, please go ahead.
Jerry from the Star. It's just for further clarification about the readings in the Seine and the water. I understand that the area that failed was not within the triathlon course. Is that right, Anne, that the area that actually failed was not within the course of the triathlon?
Yeah, the last, yeah.
Is that area that's failed within the course of the marathon swim?
I will need to check and get back to you afterward.
Right, yeah, okay. Thanks very much. If you could let us know, that would be great.
We'll come back to you on that. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. See you tomorrow. I did make a note about what we were going to talk about. Yes, sponsors and TV tomorrow, so it should be quite interesting to have some of our key directors here. So thank you very much. I'll see you at 11 tomorrow. Thank you.